Your grandfather, Adolph Goldman,
Who was born where?
he was born in Romania.
Bucharest.
Okay, but Grandpa Leo was born.
Hammond,
Hammond,
Indiana.
Indiana.
He was
Never
born en
bar
route to
mitzvah.
Chicago.
Okay.
And he never got a proper birth certificate, that's why he never could get a passport. Because all they registered, they brought him to the hospital after he was born. They said, baby Goldman. And that's all it said.
So did he never really know his birthday or birth
No,
year?
he
Or
knew
did
his
he?
exact birthday,
Okay.
but he never got a real birth certificate.
They didn't need any of that for the post office or anything?
No, apparently they didn't care then.
Chicago.
It's now that you've got this thing with terrorism, you fill out a form, they want your driver's license, they want a certification, a picture ID and
They
so
want
on.
your blood.
Yeah.
So didn't Uncle High and Leo have wasn't there a farm or something?
Well, that's
Yes,
what we're going to
yes,
tell.
yes.
We're going to tell
All
that
right,
story.
you tell the story, then I'll tell you if that's the same one that I have rebuttals thought.
Worked for the railroad, and he got free land along the railroad tracks in Seney, Michigan.
Yeah.
Right, so
Was that in Upper Michigan?
Yeah, and
Upper- yeah,
if
near
you
Escanaba.
remember in your high school history, remember the land grants where they gave you 160 acres? If you farmed it for so long, the land was yours.
Yeah.
This was an offshoot of the same program. The railroad wanted freight business.
Okay, so
So they wanted towns along the way.
my grandfather and grandmother were friends of the Goldmans. This goes back over 100 years. So Grandpa Goldman invited my grandfather, who was a tailor, a lousy one, but he was a tailor, and his family with a bunch of kids, and they all went up to Seney, Michigan in the coldest winter that they ever had up there. It was really cold. Well, it gets cold. And because they couldn't build their homes because it was so cold, the Shapiros, my family, moved in with the Goldmans in their barn.
Yeah, they lived in
And
the
they
barn.
all lived in a barn. But they had to do something, they had to get out of there. So
The smell was probably
Goldmans
brutal.
went back to Chicago. The Shapiros went to Escanaba, Michigan. And no, the Goldmans first, I beg your pardon, they went to Newberry, that's where Hyde
Yeah,
was born.
that's where.
They went to Newberry, Michigan, and the Shapiros went to Escanaba, Michigan. So they parted ways. But later, in later years, they became friends again, and they were neighbors.
The area was so wild and the growing season was so short that reindeer would come in when they brought the cattle in to bring them in the barn. They slept in the same barn initially with the cattle. Later on, they built a house.
But wasn't it so cold, or there was something really rotten that happened that made him want to abandon Michigan and come to Chicago?
Because it was so cold.
The cold, right?
It was so cold.
They couldn't build a home.
They couldn't go any further
they-
south? They just, they just
But
stopped.
They went back to
they
Chicago. They went to Newberry, Michigan.
The
Where were they
growing
living prior to
season was
that?
so
Okay.
short they couldn't
Chicago,
farm
they were
it.
all in
Everyone came up from
They're all
Chicago
from
because
Chicago.
of
They
this
had,
land
they had
got.
but they did have
And
a
they just went
traveling
up-
rabbi come.
Rabbi Goldman, Grandpa Goldman started a Jewish commune. That's
Yeah.
what he wanted.
He was a
wanted to
pioneer.
start this
He
Jewish
wanted to build a Jewish city
Yeah.
up there, and he got others to
It's like
come.
Moses.
But they,
Isn't there a book about this? It sounds like there's really much.
yeah.
Also,
That's why.
Do you have something to add,
Howie
Doris?
asked
Wait,
for
Doris has something
but
to
if
add.
Lawrence
too.
is done.
no, but Howie asked for Grandpa's talus. He never had a talus. He got his education. The traveling rabbi came and taught him and High learned, and he didn't.
My
for
father
whatever
never
reason, you know.
My father never learned anything.
Yeah, but he.
Read Hebrew?
No,
No.
he wouldn't work on the Jewish holidays, but he never went to
Daddy?
shul. No, he never went to
What
shul.
kind of how were they making a living up there?
Well, supposedly they were going to be farmers and raise, they were going to.
Yeah,
They
they
had
were
the
gonna be
bad
farmers.
idea to raise corn. Corn needs a hot growing season. That crop fails. That's really, if you ever go up northern Michigan, you're really very far north. It's
You're
no,
near Canada.
yeah.
It's near Canada.
And that's like you said, the Shapiros and the Goldmans got together again. That's how you met Uncle High.
I met Uncle High, Grandma Goldman, your grandma, and my buddy were neighbors again. After all these years, they kept in touch with each other. And High says he remembers all his life. Every year, his mother would say to him, "We're going to visit the
Oh, there you
Shapiros,"
go.
because they moved together. My grandparents moved every year.
Nice.
And when we lived, I went to 6 grammar schools because we moved every year. And so
That sounds difficult.
so I lost his wife, and he had an 11-year-old daughter, Judy. And they lived, Grandma lived in a house that had a long passageway. And my grandmother had just visited Grandma Goldman and Mr. Rosendahl. And she was walking, Max, she was walking out, and here comes Judy and I going in. And she sees him. And she goes home and she says, I bet you that's Mrs. Goldman's son who lost his wife. So she called Grandma and she said, was that your son and the granddaughter? She said, yeah. She said, yeah. I think my Esther would be very good for your high.
How old were you?
I was 25.